in this presentation here, I wanted to give you a little overview on what we're doing here in this course. We're going to start with the object-oriented programming fundamentals. Some of you are coming from procedural PHP, actually most of you. So you need the fundamentals. You need to understand exactly how we do things in object-oriented programming, okay? How we start doing the basics. The next thing is that we're going to be jumping right into a project. The best way to learn anything, especially in technology, is to start doing it. All right, you start using your mind a lot more when you get into problems and you're trying to resolve them, right? So we jump into this project. We're gonna build this photo gallery system. It's gonna be a content management system. We're gonna, of course, save a lot of pictures in there, and we're gonna do a lot of things. And I already gave you a description and showed you exactly what we're doing in the introduction video, so you know that we don't have to go over that. Then we're gonna have these sections here for adding extra features. All right, I think it's very important once we're done with the project to get some feedback from you guys. You can send me emails at support@edwindiaz.com, and send me some private messages, and just suggest some features that you might want to see in the course, and I write it down, and if it meets my criteria, then I will add it to the course. So there's always that option, and I'm always thinking, what else can I add to the gallery system that will to any of my courses that will teach my students more. So keep in mind that I always have you in mind. All right, so this is what we're going to be doing in this course. Thank you so much for watching my lectures. Thank you so much for joining my course. See you in the next lectures. Hi, welcome. This is Edwin from the future, and now I want you to watch this whole lecture because this is super important. What I'm about to tell you depends on you finishing this course successfully. All right, so why am I here? Well, I'm here because I'm basically coming back to fix a couple bugs that we have in the application. Now, I don't want you to get freaked out or get frustrated with the bugs. We know for a fact with experience that mistakes makes us better. So you're going to encounter a couple lectures that might have a bug, and right after the bug, okay, you're going to see a lecture that looks like this. You're going to have the lecture name, and you're going to have the words Edwin from the future. That means that I came back to fix the mistake from the lecture before that one. All right, so why we decided to make this like this, how, instead of actually deleting the whole lecture, because we know that by you having a problem or the instructor having a problem and you trying to fix that problem, you're going to create so many different solutions for that problem that is going to make you a lot better for everything you do in programming. Not only are you going to fix that issue, all right, but you're going to be fixing issues that you have from the past, and you're going to be fixing even issues that you're going to have in the future already just by trying to find the solution for that problem. We know for a fact that this is going to make you a lot better. And we can easily delete these lectures and remake them again and make the perfect course. But then you won't be learning debugging. And debugging is super important. We as programmers spend more time debugging the application than actually creating it. We spend more time making it better and better every time. So your job would be to try to find the solution, even though you might see the next lecture that says Edwin from the future. Try to find the solution for that problem yourself, even if it takes you 2 hours or 2 days. And then look at that lecture that says Edwin from the future if you can't find it. Or even if you find it, just to compare your code. So I wish you the best, and I hope you don't mind me coming back to the course to correct those lectures. And I hope we hope that you don't mind that we do this way. But again, we know that this works, and we know that we are helping you. And this is what this course is all about, helping you become a better developer, a better programmer. Thank you again for taking the time to join this course, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, I'm just going to review some of the code editors that I use and that I recommend all the time for my students. Now, keep in mind that if you already have your code editor that you use to code either PHP, JavaScript, or whatever you code, that is fine. You don't need to switch code editors to follow along with me. All you need is any code editor that you are able to put text in there. All right, basically it really doesn't matter. For me, as long as you can code in your code editor, you're good to go. This lecture is just to recommend you some of the code editors that I think are really good at this moment that I'm recording this video. So the first one is brackets.io. You go to that website there and you can find it. You can download it. It's free. It's I believe Adobe makes it, and it has a really cool interface, a whole bunch of cool features, a lot of plugins. You can look at your web page and code at the same time. It has a preview window. I have it right here installed. You can see the icon right there. I have also Sublime Text. All right. And this one is the one that I'm going to be using for this course. And I use it for some of my other courses too. But I also use brackets because a lot of people download brackets because it's free. All right. So Sublime Text has a price tag at this moment of $70. Maybe they'll put down the price later on. But right now it's $70. What is so good about Sublime Text? Well, it has a lot more plugins than brackets. It's a more professional co-editor. This is when people really get really professional. But again, you don't need a complicated co-editor to code. All you need is a text editor. Anywhere you can write text, even Notepad. I don't recommend it because I don't recommend Notepad from Windows because it's really not a versatile, it's not flexible co-editor that will show you highlighting syntax. It will show you when you make mistakes. I mean, these co-editors are really advanced and they will show you when you make a mistake. All right, so it's just gonna help you write code a lot better. All right, so you got the free one, brackets here. Sublime Text has a price tag. I also recommend Text Wrangler for Mac users. Oh, by the way, brackets, it's available for Windows, Linux, and I believe and Mac users for sure. All right, so it's available in different platforms. Sublime Text, the same thing with Sublime Text. Text Wrangler is only for Macintosh users. All right, and Coda is for Mac users, I believe. All right, so you're welcome to check it out. Let me just go back here. All right, and you can just read on it and it will show you exactly everything you need. All right, so it does have a price tag and it's really is actually one of the coolest co-editors out there. All right, it's just, for me, it's just a lot of features. All right, I like something simple that I can just see the code and just write it down and that's it. All right, I don't like complicating myself too much. I already have to think a lot when I'm writing, so why should I think about other things, right? But anyway, so these are the co-editors that I recommend. You're welcome to use any co-editor you want. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to support you. Thank you again and see you in the lectures. To run PHP and to run databases in your computer usually is done with a server. Now, luckily for us, there is a solution out there, which is a software, actually many different types of softwares that will act like servers. So we download that software, we install it in our computer, and we can run PHP and we can run databases. And that software will act like it's a server. Now, it doesn't change anything on your computer. It just helps you run PHP and databases in it. So let me show you what software I'm talking about right now. So first of all, there are many different types of softwares, but we are going to be downloading only one. And this one is called XAMPP. Why we are downloading this? Because XAMPP is actually, well, they are saying they are the most popular PHP development environment. And I have to kind of agree. XAMPP is very popular. Now, when you come to the screen here, you're going to have a button here for Windows, for Linux, and for Mac OS, unless they change it later on in the future. Depending on your operating system, you're going to click on one of these buttons here. If I'm in a Mac right now, so I'm just going to click on the Mac button, and this will download a file for me automatically. So I'm going to wait for it. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. So this is going to start downloading to my favorite directory in my computer, probably downloads, the download folder. And when this finishes downloading, and this goes for Linux and Windows machines too, it will do the same. If it doesn't do that, if it doesn't download automatically, just click on here. It will take you to another site and it will do it automatically again. All right. When this finishes downloading, just click on it and install the program like install any program in your machine. Just like any program, just install it, follow the directions, and everything is default I repeat, every option that you choose on that program, just choose it as default. You're going to click OK, or you're going to click Next, whatever you need to install the program. Once you install the program, it should open up something called the Control Manager. If it doesn't open it up, then I'll show you how to open it up right now. But once this finishes downloading, let me just cancel this one because I already have the program. So once this finishes downloading, you are going to have something like this. This is exactly the same thing that Windows is going to have, unless they change it. If you're on Windows, you're going to have a control panel, and you are going to have this in your programs and then in a folder called XAMPP. All right, so that's where you will find it. Now, if it doesn't open automatically, again, go to that folder XAMPP and then click on that control panel file that you have there, and you should open this up. When you open this up, then just click Start and Start for Apache and MySQL, and you're good to go. For Mac users, you're going to have something like this. Let me see if I can get it. I'm going to show all windows and right here. So you are going to have something like this. It's going to welcome you, and we're going to go to Manage Servers, and then here the same thing as we did with Windows. You just turn it on, click on this file on Apache, Start, MySQL, Start. Of course, mine, the Start button here is grayed out, and that's because it's running. So once you start up MySQL database and Apache, let me just click no here and minimize this. You're going to go to your browser, and you're going to type localhost. When you do this and you see this window here, then your installation is good. All right, then you successfully install XAMPP on your system. If it's not, then you uninstall the program again and try installing it again. If you still have a problem, contact me and I will help you out as much as I can. For Mac users, you will find this program, Control Panel, all right, on your Launchpad somewhere. So if you go to your Launchpad right here, you can click on Manager-OSS, and it will open up for you. If it doesn't do that, go to Applications right here. My Finder, my Windows there, Applications. Go to your XAMPP folder, go to Manager OS, and just click on it, and then it should open it up. All right, it doesn't open up for me because I already have it here. For some reason, once I minimize it, it doesn't want to come back up. But you saw what I did. I went here and I right clicked on it and show all windows, and I was able to get it back there. Okay, right, so this is all we need to have that running. And again, go to your local host there on your browser, and that should be proof enough that we installed the software successfully. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Take care. Hi, welcome back, my dear students. There are a couple things that I want to discuss before we move on with the course. The first thing is video quality. I want to make sure that whatever you are watching from my course is crispy, clear, high definition. So we are going to make sure that our high definition feature is turned on. All right, so right here on the bottom on your video player, there is an HD button right there, and I'm going to expand this so you can see it. As you can see right here, if I click on it, watch this text. As you can see right now, it's a little blurry. If I click on it, right now it looks a lot better than what it did before. It makes a world of difference, right? So make sure that your HD feature is turned on. It's between your volume and your time. Maybe later on Udemy will change this, but right now you need to make sure that your HD is turned on. Now, the second thing that I want to discuss is how to download your exercise files. Some of you already know this, but some of you are new to Udemy and do not know this. So right here on the right hand side, these are your lectures. Here on top, you got 4 tabs right now. The first tab is for your lectures. The second tab is for downloading any material that your instructor wants you to download. Right now, I'm in the instructor mode only. But in your side, you will see a link for you to download your exercise files. So click on that link and download your exercise files right now. Right now, the lecture that you're watching has your exercise files. So go to this tab and download it. Now, I do expect you to follow from scratch on everything I do. But if you do have a problem, the exercise files are going to get you out of that problem. And of course, you can contact me anytime. The third tab is just going to allow you to make a discussion about this specific course lecture. And on the last one, you can take notes. Now, before you go, there's one last thing that I want you to actually make sure that you have on. We're going to go to somebody else's course, all right? And I need to do this so that way I can show you, because it doesn't show on my side since I'm logged into the account. So there is a gear symbol right here, all right? If you click on it, you're going to get this course email settings. You're probably going to have this turned off. Make sure that new lecture emails is turned on, because this is going to let you know every time I make a new lecture about the course. And this is super important. Sometimes I make new lectures just to fix other lectures that I make mistakes on, or maybe I want to update my course, or maybe I'm including extra features. So make sure that that's on. Announcements are really good. I send sometimes announcements for coupons or new courses for free. So you guys can jump into those. So new announcement emails are really important to have on. I suggest keep this on, all of it. Now, another thing that I really ask you to do, and this is just a favor for me. I spend a lot of time on these courses and I love what I do, but you guys make it really awesome when you guys write reviews. It takes only 1 minute to write a review, and it makes a world of difference, because I make this course with a lot of love, and sometimes I like to see my students, sending a good review or letting me know if something is wrong with the course. If you want to write a good review, all you have to do is just right click, put a title here, and put the stars. Now, if you do have something negative to say, or for some reason you don't like something about the course, what I ask you to do before you write a review is contact me. Give me the opportunity to fix it if you see something wrong. So I will ask you to go here to the add discussion and type in your problem and let me fix it. Reviews are super important for us instructor. Remember, some of us do this for a living. This is our money for our home, for our family, and this is our life. So reviews either can damage the business or it can damage the instructor. All right? So this is people's lives that you have in your hand when you're writing a review. So I put a lot of love in my courses, a lot of dedication. I love what I do. But if you have anything that you want to recommend, you can always message me. You can add a discussion. But if you have a really good review and that you don't have a problem with the course, write me a review and let me know that I'm doing well. That gives me a lot of motivation. Anyways, thank you so much for really watching this lecture and being in my course. I'm looking forward to helping you finish this course and looking forward to see you in my other courses. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Alright, welcome back, my dear students. In this lecture here, I'm going to show you how to turn on errors on PHP. So that way when you get some type of error in your code, you can see it. You can see exactly where it is. Alright, some of you should have this by default, but I have found out that for some reason, some of you don't have this turned on. So what we need to do is go to your local host. All right, some of you are going to get redirected to, let me just see where I have mine. You're going to get redirected to this page right here. I'm using MAMP, by the way, actually XAMPP. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to go to my PHP info right here. All right, if you don't have this screen here and you're using some other software like MAMP or WAMP or something like that, what you need to do is create a file. And I'll show you right now. Let me just open my editor and I'll show you what you need to do. All right, actually let me see if I can use a temporary folder so that I can show you. I'm creating a folder here. I'm just gonna dump it in here. I'm gonna show you how I do this. So I created this folder called example in my htdocs. Okay, so make sure that you know what your htdocs is. Okay, so right here I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call this, I can call this whatever I want. I'm just going to call it test.php. all right, I'm going to open my PHP tags and I'm just going to put a function called PHP info right here. This is a predefined function that PHP provides for us to check to see our servers, right? So I'm gonna go to my local host, and like I said, some of you are gonna get redirected, so make sure that you put your local host, the file, the folder name, and the file name, right, for your path, and then enter. And this is gonna take you to your server information. Here, all right, there are a couple things that you need to be aware of. First is to display the error. So I'm going to do Command F or Control F, depending on the operating system you are, to search on my browser for display underscore errors. Okay, make sure that this is on your system. I'm just going to make sure that it's big so you can see it. All right, make sure that it's on. All right, if it's not on, what you need to do is you need to go to your htdocs. Let me use actually to your, it's not htdocs actually, it's to your applications, wherever you have your XAMPP folder on. Mine, well, some of you have MAMP or WAMP, but what you need to find is your php.ini file. All right, mine is going to be in etc. and right here. All right, so find out, depending on your development environment, where your php.ini is, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it to my editor. All right, and I'm going to search right here. So I'm going to use my search feature for my editor. I'm going to go and find, and I can just do Command F or Control F, and I'm going to find display underscore, and you can see when I click find, it says right now that it is on. All right, so make sure that it is on. If it's off, change it to on. All right, you see this, it says error displaying right here. All right, so make sure that your display errors are on. Let me see if we can find another one. Right here is another one. Make sure that this is on, and you can see right now if you put a semicolon here, this is not going to work. It's going to comment this out. So make sure that you have that is like this. So I don't have any more display errors, only this, and this is not the one that is actually working. It's this one here for me, this one. All right, so then when you save it, Command F S or Control S, then what you need to do is you need to restart your server. So in my case, let me see if I can get this out and show it to you, wherever that is. I Control Manager, I don't know what mine is. Let me just see if I can find it somewhere here. All right, I'm gonna do it the hard way then. Right here, should find it somewhere. So what you need to do is you need to find your control manager. For some reason I can't find mine. I don't know where it is. Actually right here, I'm sorry about that. Right here, there we go. So find your control manager, all right, on whatever software you're on, and start these services. Stop them if you have them running, and then restart. Okay, so restart your services, your MySQL and your Apache, and then those functionalities will be on. And make sure that you come back to your file here, make sure that they are on. All right, so every time you update your php.ini, you need to go back and restart your servers, and then everything will be working. All right, so also another thing that we will be using is called output underscore buffering here. I just wanted to point that out, and my value is 496. So again, you can go to your php.ini and search for output buffering. As you can see right here, I have it on already, searching for it. Find, and you can see that mine right here is 496. Make sure you save it and restart your servers. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, and good luck. I'll see you in the lectures. Take care. Welcome back, my dear students. In this section here, we're going to be learning some OOP fundamentals, some object-oriented programming stuff, right? We're going to be defining class inheritance, doing methods, properties, instantiating a class, access control modifiers, setters and getters, and constructors. All right. There are other things that we might even add later on as the course progresses, but at this moment, this is what we're going to be learning in the fundamentals. You need to know some basic OOP fundamentals before we jump into building this really good project that we got going on here on this course. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. keep it going. Make sure you write down exactly how many lectures you're doing every day, so that way you have at least a goal on what you are trying to accomplish. Because if you just start this course with just one lecture here and one lecture there, it's going to take you a long time to finish it. All right. So anyways, I see you in the next lectures. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, I'm going to show you how to define a class. Now, I'm assuming that you already have the basics of PHP and you have your XAMPP, WAMP, MAMP, whatever local solution you are using. You have it installed in your computer, hopefully, right? Well, if you don't, make sure that you have. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should take a basic PHP course, and I have one called the PHP for Beginners. And if I haven't changed the name, but it's another PHP course that I got for total beginners. But anyways, so I'm assuming that you have that installed. So let's go ahead and start this. Also, make sure that your htdocs folder is in your desktop, so that way it's available to you anytime you want it, you need it. So I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to right click here. I'm going to make a folder called OOP, enter. I'm going to drag it into my co-editor just to have it there so that I can use it anytime I want, so it's easier for me. And here we're going to be making a file, and I'm going to call this class underscore definition. Now you can name this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it class definition.php. Enter. Actually save, Command S or Control S, depending on what operating system you are, and save. All right. So let's open up our PHP tags. All right. And I'm going to show you how to first define a class. And this is going to be a class of an object. All right. This is how you start your objects. So the way that we define a class is super simple. First thing that you need is the keyword class. And as you can see, my co-editor already highlighted this in a different color. Second thing is the class name. And this starts with an uppercase. So let's say, for example, you can name this whatever you want. I'm going to name this cars. C-A-R-S. And then following that is the curly brackets, just like functions. And here inside these curly brackets, it really doesn't matter. You probably will see this like this. The white space really doesn't matter here, okay? So do not worry about that. This is the way I use it. This is the way a lot of people use it, but you will probably see it like this somewhere too. That's okay. Now, inside these curly brackets, you have your class definition, and that is your properties, variables, or methods or functions. Now, the methods are called here. The functions are called methods. All right. So remember, you have properties are usually variables, and then you have methods, which are functions, which are the things that you do with your object. And later on, we'll see how that works. All right. So this is how you define a class. Now, keep in mind, this is all we got to do to define a class. Here inside, we put the definition, your blueprint of that object that you want to create, right? So later on, we're going to see how that works. But know that PHP keeps track of this. Automatically, you save this, PHP knows that you already made a class. So it's very easy to actually find out. I'm going to show you how to find out if PHP already knows this. So I'm just going to build a variable here, and I'm going to call this my underscore classes. And I'm going to use a function called declare. Sorry about that. All right, I'm going to make it a little smaller so that way you can see these bots right here. All right, declared. All right, as you can see, PHP is already helping me with that. I'm just going to press tab, and that writes that for me, right? Well, not PHP, this is my co-editor doing that. So now I can use this, and that automatically, this function is going to put all the classes that PHP is declaring automatically, all right? It's going to put it in this variable right here. And now for me to see this, see all the classes, I got to use a loop, right? Well, let's use a for each. And I'm going to click on tab, and that's going to write all that stuff for me. Great. Now, I don't need all that. What I need is this. So I'm going to use my variable classes there. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm just going to name it class here. There we go. and all I have to do is just echo it. Echo class. All right. And you should already know this, how to use for each loops. You get this in the basic of PHP. So make sure that if you don't understand that, make sure you take that other course. If you need some help with that other course for some reason, let me know. Message me. All right. So let's go ahead and see this in the browser and see what do we got here. So I'm just gonna open up a browser window. Actually, right here. Yeah, this is okay. I'm gonna go to localhost, and I should have OOP and the name of this file, class definition.php. All right, and as you can see, all the classes here. Now, what we can do is to see all the classes that we can concatenate here a break, so that way we can see it better. All right, and let's look at it right here. Let's just refresh it right here. And as you can see, these are all the classes that automatically get defined in PHP when you're using the PHP. So if we go all the way down, you're gonna see our class right here. All right, so I'm just gonna make it a little bigger. You see that? Cars. All right. So PHP keeps track of all the classes you make, so you can refer to them and ask PHP if it exists, if it's there, and if it does, what else do you want to do with it, and whatever. So anyways, I hope this lecture here was able to help you understand how to define a class. Super simple, as you can see. Later on, we're going to be doing some great stuff with objects. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next lecture. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, we are going to be defining a method. All right, so the way we do that is super simple, but before we do that, first let's go ahead and do a save as on this document, because I want you to have this for your reference. All right, so let's do save as. I'm gonna use my keyboard shortcuts, Command S, Shift, and excuse me, call this class methods. Save. All right, so you're gonna have two files now. Let's take this out of here, and actually, you know what? Let's just leave it there for now. And we can just comment this out. All right. So how do we define a method of a class? Well, it's super simple. As a matter of fact, methods are just functions. And so we use the same thing. We use the same name. We use the same rules for making methods. You see, a method is just a function that is declared inside a class. And that's the whole reason why we call it a method, because it's a method of the class. We can't call it a function unless it's by itself. So remember this. We call functions methods when they are inside the class, and we call them functions when they are outside. Right? So we follow the same rules. For example, we create a method here, right, called greeting. That's it. So you see, it's the same keyword that we use function, and whatever name we want to give it with parentheses and curly brackets. Remember that a class is like a blueprint of an object, right? You get the properties, and then you get the methods, which are functions or behaviors of that object, which later on I will show you how to complete. All right, so that's it for this. And also we also have to know that PHP keeps tracks of methods, so you can find this method somewhere in PHP. All right, so if you go outside the class right here, as a matter of fact, I'm just gonna take that off. It's bothering me a little bit. All right, so let's say, for example, I want to find out if this method exists somewhere, right? So I just create a variable, just like I did with a class definition, or we did, because you must be following me. All right, make sure that you practice by following me. Don't just watch me. Go ahead and write it down. That way you can get practice on this. All right, so I'm just gonna say the methods, create a variable, and then I'm just gonna use a built-in function called getClassMethods. All right, so this is gonna grab all the methods for this specific class, and we have to give it a parameter, and the parameter is the name of the class. All right, And this will, of course, get all the methods for this specific class and put it inside this variable. All right, now we actually, this becomes like an array, because if we have more methods, all right, this function will save it in here. But we can access a variable, right, with many different things inside. A variable only can hold one thing, one part of information, not multiple values like an array. So we need a for each loop, and just like we did last time. The only thing that we change on this is just the function, right? We need a different function to get methods, of course. So the methods as method, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Hopefully I don't lose it for the rest of the course. And then we just echo this out. So I'm just gonna echo method, right? Make sure that you put a concatenation, a break there, so that way when it comes out, it's nicely there. So let's just go ahead and create another one just so you can see it better. Greeting 2, right? So I just copy and pasted that one and created on a different function here, a different method. And I think this is gonna be fun, right? So let's go ahead and see this in the browser. I'm gonna double click here, and this is gonna open this window here, which will open one of my other monitors. And what I did was that I actually dragged this and created a shortcut in my desktop for the folder OOP, so that way we just double click it so we can see it. So I'm just gonna click on class methods, and as you can see, we have the two different methods there for our class, right? So PHP keeps track of methods or functions, if you want to call them that. We should call them methods because they are inside the class. All right, so this is how you define a method inside a class, and that's it. Thank you so much, and I see you in the next lecture. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, we are going to be instantiating a class. What that means is that we are going to be creating different instances of a class. Remember when I told you that a class is a blueprint? In a class you have methods and you have properties, right? So I want you to think about a class just like this. Imagine that a class is just a template. You have menus, you have links, you have pages and things like that, right? Well, you can make copies of that same template and create different what? Websites, right? With the same template, you can change the color of it. You can make a totally different website out of the same template, or many different websites out of one template. So a class is just basically a template, a blueprint, right? Something that we could use to make different what? Objects, right? But now let me just show you a quick example. Let's go ahead and do a save as on this. And let's call this class instance. All right, I'm just gonna take this method out of here and this one. All right, and let's do something here with this method. Let's just do an echo here and say something. Hello, student. I hope you are really motivated. You are really learning something super valuable in this class, in this course, and you should take advantage of it, right? By practicing, by writing exactly what I'm doing right here. Don't just watch me, do it, because that's going to help you. Believe me, it is. So now we created this method inside this class, right? So now, in order for us to start producing different instances, and those instances will be what? Objects, right? Because that's what basically this is all about, creating objects. So for us to make a different, to activate this, the first thing that we need to do to instantiate this is we need to write the word new and the name of the class. And as you can see, my editor is already helping me with that, following by parentheses and a semicolon. So this class is instantiated now here one time. All right, now in order for us to do it multiple times to create different objects, right, we need to assign it to something so that we can hold all this definition that this class has. And where do we actually hold things in PHP or any programming language? Right, in variables and arrays and things like that, right? So let's use a variable and call this whatever we want. In this case, I'm just gonna call it BMW. And I don't know if you see what is happening here. You see, we can have a, let's say for example, a game that has a bunch of functions of the car moving the wheels and whatever. And here in the properties later on, we're going to have variables that will probably give us the color of the car and things like that, right? Now we have the same functionality for every different car, right? Let me just make another instance here, right here, and then I can call this whatever I want. Mercedes. I like BMW, by the way. That's my favorite car. But as you can see here, all I'm doing is creating different templates, different blueprints. Actually, same blueprints, but there are different instances. This is the BMW object, right? Or what? Instance. And this is the Mercedes instance. So I can go ahead later on and assign different functionality to this instance than this. All they have in common right now is a definition. So everything I put in this class, properties and functions or methods and things like that, each of them will have that. They will always have that same definition, and we can use it, but we can assign it different values later on depending on which instance we are working with. All right, I want you to understand that, have it very clearly. If not, rewind the video and try to understand it, or write it down a couple times. Now, in order for us to activate the functionality inside this class, this functionality greeting, we need to use that variable right here. I'm going to use the BMW variable. I'm going to paste it here, and then we use something that you probably have not seen before. It's an arrow right here. So I got a hyphen and the greater than symbol, and then the name of that specific method. I'm going to copy it here and paste it here, and then semicolon. And that automatically is going to activate this method. All right, so I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to my localhost here. I'm going to refresh it, and I'm going to click here, instance. And as you can see, automatically we get that method activated within that class. All right, super simple to do. Again, we created a different instance by using different variable names and using the send keywords right here. New cars. Every time you want to create a new an instance, you need to have the same right here, the same keywords, and just change the variable names. All right, later on I'm going to show you how to play around a little bit more with that, but as you can see here, it's super fun to do, super easy, and it saves you a whole bunch of time. All right, if you come from procedural PHP, you can have a form class here with a whole bunch of different variables and actions and methods, and then you can create different objects with that form. All right, class. So hopefully you start seeing the power of object-oriented programming and you're happy, because this is super exciting. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I see you in the next one. Welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, we are going to be learning how to create properties for the class. Some people call it attributes, some people call it class variables. All right, so let's go ahead and do a save as on this document on instance, on the class underscore instance, and let's call this class properties. I hope you are really following this and doing everything like I am, because watching it is not going to make you better. You need to write it down, and I tell you that from experience. All right, so now I'm going to change a couple things here, but first let me show you how to define a property or a variable inside a class. The way that we do this is by using the keyword var. That means, of course, variable, and then we just write the variable like we regularly do, right? Regularly in PHP, will count. So I created a variable here called will count. This is a property now. It's no difference. It's still a variable. It contains information if we assign it to, right? If we assign information, we'll have it in here. The only difference is this keyword here, because when you are outside the class, you're not required to let PHP know that it's a variable, because PHP already knows. It assumes that you are creating a variable as long as you put a $sign. But when you are inside the class, you need to define it. You need to let PHP know that, listen, I'm creating a variable. This is a variable of the class, a property. So that's the only difference here. So I created this variable with nothing here. All right, so I'm going to show you in a minute how to call it. But first, let's change this here to car detail. All right. All right. And let me just take that off from here. So I'm going to use this instance here to show you a couple of examples. I'm going to actually create another property. This property is going to be called door count. And we can also assign it a value right away. We don't have to leave it empty like here, but let's go ahead and assign it a value right away. I'm going to assign it a value of 4, and this one I'm going to assign it a value of 4. Right? So the way that we can actually access this property, super simple. We use the name of the instance right here. Remember, now that we want to access anything inside the class, we got to use the name of the instance for that specific object, right? So BMW, all right, and the hyphen and the arrow key, and now you just use the name of that property. You don't need to use a $sign anymore, all right, because you're already defining this here, but you don't need that $sign anymore there. All right, so now let's say we want to echo it. So what we do is we type in the word echo and save. We go back outside and see how this looks. Back, refresh here, and class properties, and now we can see the 4 right here. Okay, perfect. So that's how we access that information. Now you can also change that information right here. So we can also go and do something like this. Assign it number 10. We come back here and refresh, and now that changes. See that? So this is how you can make a difference. So you can have many different instances, and you can change their values of any specific one by just assigning the value right there, right? So you can use the name. You can use the same blueprint, but then you can change the value on any specific instance that you have. So in BMW here, I assigned it a different wheel count. Now let me give you an example. Another example here. Let's say Mercedes, right? And I'm not going to assign Mercedes anything. I'm just going to echo this value out, and I'm just going to concatenate a space there, a break actually, refresh, and now you can see, actually I should have concatenated the break right here. Sorry about that. All right, we can use this if you wanted to right here. Sometimes I like to use an echo to do that. All right, so refresh. All right there. So we'll count. There we go, missing this one here. There we go. All right, so you can see that now Mercedes has the original count right here of 4. All right, and if I didn't assign anything to the BMW instance, they will have both the same. All right, so you can change them like that. Okay, now there's another thing also that you can do. All right, so now let's go ahead and do this a little more creatively, right? Let's go ahead and use the keyword return, because I want to show you something, and let's return something out of it. Let's actually call this method out from the instance and return some type of value. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to write some text. I'm going to say this car has, right? And I'm going to use this property inside this method right here. And the way we do that, the way we reference this instance, this class inside a method, is with a keyword called this. All right, like this, and with a $sign. This is pseudo variable. It's called pseudo variable this. This refers to that specific class. All right, so what I'm saying is the car's class property, like this, called will actually I don't have to will count like this. I don't have to write the $ anymore. Will count like this. All right. So outside we need to use the name of the instance, of course, but because we are inside the class, we just use the pseudo variable this, and this refers to that specific class. So I'm using this property here from this class. This will count. So I'm returning this now. Now what I can do is I can call this down here, and I can say echo, and let me just use that Mercedes is fine. Let's use Mercedes. So echo Mercedes, and then the name of that method right here, and refresh. This car has 4 what? Well, we forgot to put the text in here. 4 what? Wheels, right? Wheels. Refresh. There we go. Look at that. All right. So that's the way you can play around with that. All right. So very simple to do. So I think you should have it. You should understand it by now. So again, remember that this is the way we call this inside the function. And of course, you can use this and call the BMW the same way. All right. And you can also change the values of any type of instance here. All right, so keep that in mind. So it's super easy, but it could confuse some people if you're coming from procedural PHP, if you don't know anything about programming, object-oriented programming. So make sure that you rewind this video and replay it if you don't understand it. All right, so thank you so much for watching this lecture here, and keep on practicing and writing this down. Don't just watch me, do it. It's gonna help you. Thank you. Welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture, you are going to be learning about class inheritance. Now, class inheritance is super simple. It's a super simple concept, and the words describe what it is. Basically, we are creating a class, for example, and this new class has nothing, and we can inherit the properties and methods of another class into this new class that doesn't have anything. All right, so let's go ahead and build an example here so that way you can get a better idea on what I'm trying to teach you here. So let's do a save as on class methods, and really doesn't matter which file, and let's call this inheritance, class underscore inheritance, save. All right, and let's go ahead and actually take one of these functions out of here, and let's just echo hello here. All right, and I'm just gonna take all that off, make sure that everything is good here, and let's instantiate this class first, and let's just create a BMW object, right? And let's just say new cars. There we go. That's it. Instantiated this class, and now let's say, for example, I want another class, right? And the other class name will be, I don't know, class trucks. All right, so this is the new blueprint, right? And we don't have anything here. As a matter of fact, I'm just gonna make it like this. We don't have anything. Let's go ahead and use this class. Let's use everything from this class. So let's also create a property here. And the reason why I'm not copying from other files, I'm using the methods one, is because I want you to get used to actually typing this on your co-editor, because if you just watch me and don't type it, it's not gonna be very easy for you later on to actually instantiate or do anything. All right, so get in the habit of typing things. So let's go ahead and do this wheels, and let's assign this 4. All right, so for example, I can instantiate this new class, and I'm gonna call this what kind of truck there is. Well, they have a Mercedes truck, but we can say Toyota. Toyota has a truck. Tacoma is a truck of Toyota. Really doesn't matter. I'm just making this up here. Actually, Tacoma, it is a truck for Toyota. All right. So let's instantiate this new class, trucks. There we go. All right. So now if we go to refresh here, we go to class inheritance. We don't see, actually we do see something there, because we're instantiating this, and this says echo, but let's just say return here, right, and save it, refresh. We don't have to instantiate this one here. Actually, we are in the wrong one, sorry. Inheritance, there we go. There's nothing there. All right. So in order for us to have something, to see something on the screen, right, actually in order for us to inherit something from this class to this new class, we need to use the keyword extends, and then we need to write the name of that other class that we want to get properties and methods from. So the new keyword that you're going to be using is extends, and that's it. And then the name of that class that we want to extend. So this trucks class extends the car class. So now we can go ahead and say something like this, Tacoma, and then we can say wheels. I think it's wheels, yeah. And we can just print it on the screen, right? Actually, we need to put the echo there. There we go. Refresh, and you can see now that that new class has that property right here because it's inheriting everything. So trucks is inheriting, even though we don't have any properties here, and we could if we wanted to. So you could set a property here, and you could call this new property wheels. Okay, and you can assign it a value of 10 and refresh, and now that overrides that extending that you're doing, that inheritance from the other class. All right, but if you don't have anything, it takes the default value of the inheritance of the other class. All right, so hopefully you understand that super simple concept. If you need a little bit more reviewing, make sure that you rewind the video and learn it really good before you go on to the next one. Thank you so much for watching this lecture here, and I see you in the next one. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, we're going to be learning about access modifiers or access control modifiers. And these are just special keywords in PHP that we use in order to control the flow of our programs. All right, and they are public, private, and protected. All right, so let's go ahead and create something so that way we can see how it works. All right, so let's go ahead and do a save as. I'm just gonna do a save as on this one here, I guess. Let's just find another one that has more properties. I think the class inheritance has more properties. I'm gonna choose that one. All right, so let's do a save as here on class properties, and let's call this class access.php. all right, and this function here, I'm just gonna change it a little bit. All right, so I took that off, and I'm going to also take all this off here. Perfect. So we are good to go. So here, in order for us to create some modifiers, we need to change this keyword here for something like public. So we can make this basically what public means is that this variable, this property, can be used throughout this whole program, right? Can be used anywhere in the script. Now, if I wanted to make this only available to this class, I would put the private keyword in front of it. All right, and there is another one also called protected. The protected is only available inside this class and inside any subclasses. Like when you do an inheritance, when you do an extends, like this, it will be available here. All right, so let's go back to class access. There we go. Here, what I want to do is let's just change this to wheel count, door count, seat count. All right, and I'm just gonna put 2 seats here. All right, so let's go ahead and create something so we can see it. This, and let's print this out here. This will count right there. Let's do a couple more. And let's just change the name here, door, and then this would be seat, not set. I just saw it right now. There we go. All right. So when I call this card detail method, we're gonna see something here depending exactly if this is going to show, right? So let's do an echo here. Let's say echo B&W wheel count. So let's see if this works, right? So let's go back. Let's go to our right here. Oops. Right there. There we go. Class axis, and we got an error there in 17. Let's just check it out real quick. There we go. Forgot to put the semicolons here when I do the copy and paste. Let's fix that. Come back here again and refresh. Now we can see we get that, right? So that's available, right? We are outside the class right now, and that is available. What happens when we try to see the door count there? Let's just copy this one and comment that out, and let's do the door count. Let's go back, refresh, and cannot access private property. You see that? That's not available because it's a private. It's only available inside the class. So let's comment this out and paste it here, and let's see if the seat count is available. Refresh. Cannot access protected property. You see that's not available. Now they are all available inside the class, so I can call all of them inside this class. So for example, if I go and call this B&W, then call the car detail method, detail right here like this, actually car, not cart. There we go. And I go refresh, we can all see all of them there. So they are all available inside the class, but private is only for inside the class, and protected is only inside subclasses or the class itself. All right, so keep that in mind. And again, now this is not for security purpose that we do this. We do this to control the flow of our programs, how we design our programs. All right, later on when you learn a little bit more about how you design your programs in with PHP and object-oriented programming, you are going to be you're going to notice what we use it for. All right, so it's basically just best practice to do this like this. You have more control over your programs on what they do inside a class and what they do outside. It's more about controlling how everything works, the flow of it. All right. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you were able to understand how this access modifiers work. And I see you in the next lecture. Take care. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, we are going to be learning about static modifiers. And I hope you feel really excited because what you're learning here is going to help you get ahead in life. And you know, if you know how to use this knowledge, you can either make a lot of money or you can progress in your current job or find a new job. All right? So I'm really happy that I'm able to teach you this, and I'm going to do my best so that you can understand it easily. Now, let's go ahead and talk about static modifiers. Let's first do a save as on this class underscore access.php document. Let's call this static modifier. All right, there we go. Now, let me first tell you, because I'm going to explain the syntax and how to use it, but let me explain to you what the difference is between a regular property and a static property. Because we can attach the static functionality to a property or a function. All right, so we can make a method. We can make it static, and we can also make a property static. The difference between a property, a regular property, and a static property is that the regular property is attached to the instance, meaning that you always have to use an instance to get that property, to use that property. For the static modifier property, you don't need an instance, so you refer to it by the class name. All right, so it's attached to the class instead of being attached to the instance. And I'm going to show you how it works. So right now I'm just going to delete both of this, actually just this one. And I'm going to rename, I'm going to take this private keyword out of there and just name it static. This is the way that you declare a property static. So you're telling PHP this is a static property now, PHP. And PHP is okay, that's fine. Thank you so much for letting me know, right? So now for us to use that property, let me just take this off out of here, right here. And then, so let's say for example, I want to use a wheel count, right? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna echo it out on the screen. Let's just make this a little bigger there. So we can see that it's echoing out the 4. Now let's go ahead and try to echo the door count and see what happens. All right. Well, we get an error, right? Undefined property. Now this is because we made this property static already. So PHP is actually listening, trying to find out, looking for a static property, but it can't find it. I mean, looking for a regular property and it can't find it. It finds one of these, which is a static, and it says, listen, this is undefined. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, you telling me about an instance that you want to see a regular property here with an instance, and then you are defining a static. So it gets confused. It's like, listen, it's not going to work, right? So now, in order for us to see this, to use it, we got to use it in a different format. Instead of using the instance, we got to use the class name. In this case, it's cars. And then the syntax, instead of using the hyphen or in the arrow, we use 2 double dots like this. And then remember that here we don't use the dollar sign, but in the static modifier format, we have to use the dollar sign. All right. So hopefully you can see that very clearly there. All right. So this is the difference right here. All right. One is attached to the instance, and we have to use the hyphen and the greater than symbol with no dollar sign. And the other one, we got to use the name of the class to let it know that it's what class is attached to, and 2 double dots with the dollar sign. So it's totally different format. So don't get confused. We don't need an instance anymore. I can delete all this, refresh right here, make sure that it's the right class. And as you can see, I can still print it out on the screen, and I'm not even using an instance anymore. All right. So I also told you that we can attach this to a method. It's very true. So look what happens if I attach this to a method. So I'm going to make this method static now. Let's call this method here. So let's call this. So how do we call this method now? Can you pause the video and maybe try to figure it out? Super simple. All right. So anyway, I'm just going to do it here. Hopefully you pause the video and thought about it for a minute. So I got the method right here. I got the name of the method, right? So how do we call the static method? The same way we call that a static property, right? We use the name, 2 dots, and of course semicolon. Now of course we don't need a dollar sign because this is just a method. This is not a property, right? We come here and we refresh. Actually, there is another thing that I wanted to also let you know, which I forgot. Sorry about that. Is that we don't need this pseudo variable here anymore because we are not using an instance. This is when we are using an instance. Here, remember that this is a static method now. So we need to use static information inside this method. So we need to use the same format that we use down here to refer to this is inside the class, the method, right? So as you can see here, I got to use the name of the class, the two double dots, and the dollar sign. Refresh. Oops. And also make sure that you have your properties are set to static. Okay. I gotta get going. I'm gonna go and get my coffee after this. I promise. Yes, I am. C count. There we go. There we go. All right. So make sure that the property is static and it's not a regular. It's not set to public, private, or protected. Make sure that your methods are static. If you're using static data inside, right? Make sure your format is correct. And remember, we don't need an instance to call this information to use it. So that's the static modifier there in a very brief video. And you will be able to use this later on when you understand a little bit more about it and how we use them in object-oriented programming. It's super useful. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I see you in the next one. Take care. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, I want to show you something that we call getters and setters. Basically, what we do is we build a method that is able to set values and get values. And these values are usually pulled from private properties in the class. All right. So we already did something very similar to it right here. All right, but I want you to get that concept because it's super, super important for you to understand it. So let's do a save as real quick here and let's check it out. So I'm just going to call this setters. Let's just take the class thing out, keyword out, setters underscore getters. All right, so I'm not going to remove anything. I'm just going to rename this, and I'm just going to say get wheels. Actually, get values. Get underscore values, I'm going to call this. All right, so this is going to be able to get values from here somewhere, right? And I'm just going to take this out because this is going to be the only private one that's going to be there. There we go. All right, and I'm going to build another method, and this one I'm going to call it set values. All right, so in this one we're going to set a value here for door count to 10. All right, so let's see how this works. All right, and let's go ahead and check it out. So get values. So all I'm doing right now is changing the name of that method so that we can call it down here. As you can see there, hopefully you understand what's going on there. And I'm just gonna organize it there a little bit so that way you can see it. All right, so let me recap a little bit. We have a private property right here that can only be accessed, right, inside the class. So if I call this property right here, like we did on the last example, we would not be able to get anything. We would get an error saying you cannot access a private property, right? Like we did on the last one. But right now what we're going to be doing is using this method right here, get values, to get that private property out, to get that value out of there, right? So every time we call this method right here, we are able to access this private property, and we are also able to set values with this method right here. All right, this is something that we would never be able to do outside here if we were not using this getter and setter methods. That's what is usually called in programming, in object-oriented programming. Okay, so let's first check it out. So I'm going to echo this out here. All right, so let's try the first one. I'm gonna go back here and refresh. There we go, and let's setters and getters. There we go. So we're able to see that it is working right there. Let's go and try to see if we call the other one, what happens, right? So I'm gonna copy this one and I'm gonna paste it right before. So if I paste this method right before here, it's gonna set the value to 10. Right now it's 4, right? So let's change the name of it first. Set values, right? So look what happens to this 4. Refresh, it turns into 10 twice, right? Because now, we don't even have to actually echo this out right here. Refresh, there we go. So now when we call this method right here, right, it comes before, it sets the value to 10, and then we call the other one that echoes it. All right, so you can see that, and then if we wanted to, we can also change it to, we can make another one, and set values to 100 and keep changing it depending on the order that we have it right here. So this is how we use getters and setters in PHP OOP. This way we can access some of the information that is in a private modifier. This way we can control our programs flow a lot better, and we are able to keep things private. So that way we don't get a lot of conflict inside our programs. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this lecture here. Keep motivated, keep doing it, keep practicing. If you're watching me and not doing this exercise, you need to stop right now and do it. Restart the video and start doing it. This way you will learn a lot more, trust me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, I'm going to show you how to reference static methods and properties within the class or within a subclass. Now, if you remember back in class_access.php, when we make that file, we were referencing that same class with a pseudo variable called this. So this would be the same name as this class, but this is how we reference it using an instance. All right. So now, let me show you how this is done using static. Now, if you go back to static_modifier, you know that we had to use the name of the class in order for us to reference a static property, right? So let's do a save as on this document here and show you how this is done. Reference, static reference, there we go, .php. Perfect. So all we have to do is actually use the keyword self to reference this specific class. This is very handy, and you will find out later on when you're taking more advanced PHP courses. Since right now you don't know much about object-oriented programming, it makes no sense for me to go into details about it. I will confuse you a little bit, but there are times when we need self, when this keyword is actually very useful. But anyway, so let's go to the static reference.php on our browser and let's look at it. You see that it actually does the same thing that it did before. All right, so let's actually make another class and show you another example where we can reference the parent here through another subclass where we can reference static methods and properties. All right, so let's go ahead and build another class called trucks. Let's make extents and make sure that you are writing just like I'm writing right now. That way you can get some practice on how the syntax and how we use certain keywords. All right, so I'm just gonna take all this out of here. All right, so now in this truck class, let's make sure that we cars. Oops. Make sure that we have that this is extending it. So we have all the properties and all the methods in this class now, right? We are inheriting that. Now, what I want to do is, I don't want to echo anything anymore. I want to return a value. So let's return, and all right. So I'm going to show you how this is done. I'm gonna make, what I want to do is I'm gonna make a method here, and this method is gonna call this method right here. All right, and this way I can give you an example how I can use another keyword. So let's make a static method here called display. All right. Sometimes it's confusing for me. Not confusing, but I'm in the habit of calling it functions because I write a lot of procedural PHP in my other PHP course that I have, and we have a big project there going on right now. And I call it I use the word functions all the time. that now that I'm making this course, this brand new course, is sometimes I call it function. But every time I call it function, just know that I mean a method. So I'm trying to get used to calling it method, even though for me it's a function, but we are inside a class, so it's best practice to call it methods. All right, so just get into the best practice mode. All right, so anyways, let's echo, all right, this method right here. All right, so the way we do that, I'm gonna show you this new keyword called parent, 2 double dots, because we are calling a static method, and that's it. That's all you need for that. Now we're not gonna see anything yet because we're not calling this display function, right? So we need to call this down here. All right, so we got to call first, we got to use the name of the class, 2 dots, and then the name of the method. Right, super simple, right? We come here and refresh, and we get this mistake there because we forgot the S. There we go. And as you can see there, we get that 4. All right, so let's recap a little bit so that way you can understand what we did. All right, we got some static properties here, and we're not using this, so don't let that confuse you there. All right, let's not let it confuse you. All right, so we got a static property, then we have a static method that is actually returning the value of this property. All right, and then we have a class that is extending this class. We have the trucks class. All right, so this is inheriting everything. It's inheriting the method and the property. So it basically has all the functionalities in here. We have all that stuff. But then besides that, we have another method that is actually calling this method right here, and this method is returning this value. So it's gonna return this wheel count to this here. Right, and it doesn't have to be wheel count, it could be anything else. I mean, I just figure I put that in there, but you know, you can return it. Of course, you come from procedural PHP, you know you can return anything you want. But anyway, so we're using, all we're doing here is using the word parent here. I wanted to show you an example. Of course, we can use the name of the class, but just for demonstration purposes only, I wanted to use the parent keyword there, so that way you know that we can use this to call the parent methods or properties. All right. Anyways, hopefully this hopefully this explanation was clear to you. You got the syntax on how to use the static properties and methods, and now you know 2 new keywords that you can reference those statics and those properties and methods either in the class itself with a self keyword or within a subclass with a keyword parent. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next lecture. Hi, welcome back, my dear student. In this lecture here, I'm going to show you the syntax of constructors and destructors and how they work. All right, so I'm in class underscore access.php, and I'm gonna do a save as here. I hope you're having a really good day, guys and ladies. Today is a beautiful day outside for me, and it's good to be here teaching you this information, and hopefully you are excited because this is a big thing that you are learning here, and you should be proud of yourself to come online and learn. A lot of people don't have the energy or the motivation to do it, and you have it today, so feel good. Let's name this file constructor underscore destructor. All right, let me try to spell it right. All right, I think I did it, and I'm just gonna use one property here to show you how this works. And one of the things that I'm going to change here, now let me show you how this is written, how you can create a construct method. The syntax is super simple. It's underscore underscore and then the keyword construct. Now this is how it works. Every time we called this method, every time we instantiate a class, this method, all right, gets called automatically. We don't have to echo it anywhere. We don't have to do anything else. All right, this will always echo it. even if we're not echoing it. All right, so let me just show you real quick how that works. All right, so let me just comment this out here. Now if we go see this in the browser here, refresh and click here, we see that nothing is here, right? Now watch what happens when I uncomment this instance and refresh. Now we see the 4. You see? That gets called automatically. We had another function here, another method. We will have to echo it. We will have to call it right here, but we're not doing that. You see, it gets called automatically. If you don't understand it, let me just build another method right here. And I'm just going to comment this out. And I'm going to show you. So let's say, for example, I'm going to call this details just to make it simple. Right? If I come here, you can see that nothing gets displayed unless I come here and call it details. If I refresh, now it shows. You see, with a construct method, we don't need to do that. All right? It gets called automatically, as you can see right here. You see that? All right. Now, the destruct method is very similar to this, actually the opposite of it, but we don't use it much. We use it maybe 1%, maybe I have used it in other languages, all right, in other programming languages, not much in PHP. But the destruct method basically is the same thing. Let me show you another example. Not the same thing, I'm sorry, the opposite of this. All right, so this will initialize something, and the destruct method would initialize it. It would actually do the opposite. All right, so let me show you something else. So let's say, for example, this was, and actually I'm gonna leave this like this, and I want to show you something else. Let's create a static, and believe it or not, we can code anything we want under the construct. All right, it doesn't have to be a static construct method or anything like that. So here I'm gonna use the word self, the keyword self. All right, and I'm gonna echo this. I'm gonna change the name of it, door, and of course door right here. All right, make sure you have your $sign there. Okay, now what I can do is I can increment this. All right, you see what I did here? All right, I'll show you something. Look at that. So we created another 4 here. We can call a static property within this construct method. All right, if I create another instance, look what happens. I'm gonna call this Mercedes or Mercedes, whatever. Now we get another 4, right? And then we also get a different number here. We get it incremented. Remember that this is a static property, and static means it stays in one place. All right, it doesn't move anywhere. So this 4 is 4. Every time we create an instance, we keep that value. All right, but we also increment it because this is a static. All right, so the next instance is gonna have a 5. Well, this one has a 5 already, so the next one will be a 6 because that value keeps always being maintained by that last instance. All right, so because it's a static, look at this, 4, it prints out 4 again, and the 6. All right, so always keep that in mind. We get this every time we make a new instance, and we also get it incremented with a static property. All right, so if we take this off and refresh, we only see the static properties there, 4, 5, and 6, because we have 1 instance, 2 instances, and 3 instances. All right, so I just wanted to show you that a little bit, how the static property works a little bit, and how the construct method works. All right, and to make a destruct method, all you have to do is do the opposite. All right, like this, destruct. All right, and basically what we do is we decrement. But like I said before, we don't barely use this. All right. There are times when, and like I said before, I used it in other programming languages when I'm, doing games, building games, and you use the destruct to destruct certain things about the games, about the scores and things like that. But anyway, we don't use it here much in PHP. Anyway, I hope you like this very much, and see you in the next lecture. Take care, my friend, and have a great day.